How could that happen? I've occasionally wished I was a Hindu for a while. Because as you know, in the karmic religions, the idea of reincarnation is that if you're suffering in this particular incarnation, it's because you're suffering for some sin you did in the past. Which means, it's kind of neat actually, it means that there is no such thing as unjustified suffering. It may look unjustified within the space of your particular life, but not in the space of the life of your soul. And therefore, hey, there is no unjustified suffering. Now, with all due respect to a great world religion, I'm afraid that's too neat. And I'm not sure it actually, how do I say it, does justice to injustice. I don't think it does justice to injustice. And what we have in the Bible is this, and actually Simon alluded to it. If you look at the whole biblical story of the entire Bible, it starts off by showing us that God actually did not create a world filled with suffering. He didn't put cancer in the world. He didn't even put death in the world. And the biblical storyline is that when we turned away from God, everything started to fall apart. Everything in our soul, our body, in the world, everything fell apart. And therefore, he didn't invent this. And what that means is, part of the brokenness of the world that we now have is unjust and disproportionate suffering. One of the most remarkable books of the Bible, of course, is the book of Job. In the book of Job, Job suffers disproportionately and unjustly. Terrible things happen to him. He didn't deserve them at all. But of course, his friends come along, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, and they come around and they say, well, you know what? There is no unjust suffering. If your life is going bad, you must have done something wrong. You must have. They don't believe in unjust suffering. They didn't believe it. At the end of the book, God is furious at them because he's furious at them for believing that there is such a thing, that there is no such thing as unjust suffering. That's what the book's about. Innocent people suffer disproportionately. It's part of the brokenness of this world. But here's the interesting thing. As we see, in Jesus Christ, you have the ultimate example of why I think karmic religion is wrong. Because if there's one person in the history of the world that deserved a good life, it was Jesus. He loved the Lord, his Father God, with all his heart, soul, strength, and mind. He loved his neighbor as himself. He did not deserve what he got, but he did. He got all that. And that proves that God himself understands what it's like to suffer unjustly. So Christianity does not ever say, oh, if you've done something, if you're suffering, you must have done something wrong. There are still, by the way, Christians who walk around with that assumption, radically unbiblical, radically wrong.